Have you seen all the information that we've got to go over today in this little segment that we have together? I guess we're going over traumatic brain injuries. I had no idea, but I guess they are the leading cause for death in kids that are under 4 years old. There's like 235,000 hospitalizations a year. It's the #1 killer for kids 15 to 19 years old. This is all really scary to me. I'm going to try to cover it as best I can in my weather segment today, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it.
Well, yeah, I understand, Hurricane Harry. You know.
There you go again, making fun of me talking all the time.
I know, buddy, but you know, today we do need to go over our traumatic brain injuries, but we do have to keep on target. And you know, you tend to be a bit winded, so today we're gonna, you know, go over our acute and chronic traumatic brain injuries, our open and closed, you know, our skull fractures associated with open, linear, depressed, commuted. Our linear is, yeah, I know, I've done so much research, but
all over my head.
Linear is our most common type of fractures. The basilar is the most rare form of fracture, but is also, you have to, you know, look for the CSF coming out the ears, out the nose.
Hey, it's Hurricane Harry with my last weather forecast here at KBUK. Anyways, the green screen that I usually have with all my computer graphics has been mysteriously broken down. I'll be moving out, so I'll be packing all my stuff, but today, this is the weather map that I've got to be working with today. As you know, today our segments will be going over traumatic brain injuries. Well, I thought I'd incorporate a little bit of our weather segment to our traumatic brain injury. Let's look at the weather here in the Southwest. Southwest is going to be looking at triple digits today. When the temperature gets that hot, we need to use antipyretics. Yes, we're going to be looking for Tylenol in that case, and I think someone's going to go over that later on in the segment. But the things that we need to worry about in the map today, hot, bad, okay? And if we have a fever, we need to deal with it with a traumatic brain injury. But let's go ahead and look at cold. Now, the Northeast is being inundated by a huge snowstorm. That's really slowing everything down. As you can see, the weather has come to a complete, or the traffic has come to a complete crawl back there. And that's very much like the metabolism in the body. The metabolism in the body, when it gets cold or hypothermic, it slows everything down. And that's what we like to do in a traumatic brain injury, because the body's no longer using all that energy to keep the body warm. It slows everything down, it slows the metabolism down, and it gives the body a chance to heal. But look in the middle of the country. We've got some huge thunderstorms forming there. And that's not unlike the seizure activity that occurs in traumatic brain injuries. Traumatic brain injuries are notorious for seizure activity, and that's like an electrical storm in your brain. We've got to be aware of this, and we've got to be able to treat all three aspects of this traumatic brain injury. Just like this weather team at KBUK, we need to pull in everybody into this. The people that we're going to pull in, neurological team, we're going to pull in the critical care MD for these chronic TBIs that we'll be going over. We're going to bring in physical therapy definitely, because this patient needs to recover. Speech therapy is going to, sorry, just let me get some of this stuff out of the way. Speech therapy is going to be huge for us to be able to communicate with that patient. Occupational therapy, so if the patient does have a chance to go home. We're also going to be using respiratory therapy in case the patient does need a trach or some type of respiratory apparatus. And of course, last but not least, our primary care physician. It's going to be truly important, because if we do have a fever, we've got to initiate those medications that we'll be talking about later in the show, but we've also got to be using cooling measures, like maybe a hypothermia blanket, or maybe even just cold packs, something that a nurse can do without an order. In the middle of the country with those severe electrical storms that we have, we definitely want to put seizure precautions up for that patient, because we don't want them to fall, because as you know, safety first.
Hi, we're back with Coffee with CMC. I'm Erin, and I'm here with Chef Girl RN, and she's cooked up a wonderful recipe for us today, a treatment for traumatic brain injuries.
Yeah, so Erin, thanks so much for having me on the show. I brought my recipe book, Davy's Stroke Guide, my favorite. I have all my favorites tabbed here, but I have the one for traumatic brain injuries, chronic and acute. We're going to go over acute first and then go into chronic. So let's get started.
Wonderful.
It's
I know
going to be delicious.
The audience and I are so excited.
Good, awesome. So, first things first, we're going to have some mannitol, which is a osmotic diuretic. You want to get this as a bolus, so draw it up with a filter meter. We're going to toss it up real quick. Along with your mannitol, you have your Lasix, which is your loop diuretic.
Can you tell us about some of the side effects that we might be able to expect with that on that recipe?
Excuse me. So with any diuretic, you want to watch your intake and output, absolutely. The Lasix helps decrease the rebound effect of the mannitol in the brain. So giving them both together is a good balance for your recipe.
Wonderful. Keep all those electrolytes in mind, huh?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, we're cooking, we're decreasing everything, decreasing all that inflammation and the fluid. You'd think that we'd have some glucocorticoids.
Right, yeah, you would, definitely.
To decrease the inflammation, not with a traumatic brain injury. It's not applicable. So we're just gonna toss that right out there.
There you have it, audience.
So I know that all you ICU nurses out there are looking for, some kind of sedative.
Oh, definitely.
And we got the thing for you, propofol. Now this is used in the ICU, typically. It's really good because your ICU docs can come in, do a quick neuro assessment. It has a really short half-life, so it can be out of their system like that, and you can kick it back on. So that way they decrease their agitation if they're intubated, if depending on what's going on in your recipe.
Wonderful. What pot are we going to throw that into?
In the acute pot. This is only given in the hospital. Don't want any Michael Jackson situations happening.
That's
so
true. That's true, Chef.
Toss a little bit of that in. Be careful. This is a tricky recipe. And that's where we have, your pain medication, which is also kind of sedating. It can cause respiratory depression, hypotension, not going to get out of bed, running around with all these things on board. So you're going to make sure you have your Narcan close.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to throw in a little bit of our morphine. We don't need this quite yet. Our recipe's not getting that heated. Throw a little bit of that in and keep our Narcan on the side to reverse it if we need to.
Right, right. We don't want our recipe getting all out of whack.
No. Right now it's delicious. It's simmering. So we have our pentobarbital. This can cause a barbiturate coma.
Oh, okay.
We're not really there yet either. This is a critical recipe. However, we're just not here yet. This can cause decreased GI motility,
Yes.
cardiac arrhythmias, just a lot of side effects that we're not quite looking for in this recipe.
Not that critical yet, huh?
Right.
So we'll just hang
So
on to that for now, I
we're gonna
guess.
hang on to it, we're gonna leave it on the side, just so y'all know that it's there. And I'm sure you're wondering why I haven't diluted this yet with some
Yeah,
fluids.
absolutely.
I mean, it is a little thick, however, you don't wanna dilute it too much, you can cause problems that way, with the brain and the CSF and everything going on. You wanna work closely with your physicians if you're gonna throw this into your recipe.
I know I don't like my TBIs to get too runny.
Exactly, and you're on the right track. So we also have an IV fluid, 0.3 normal saline, and that kind of acts as mannitol does, and it pulls fluid from the brain. We're not going to use that either because we have our mannitol, and I'm feeling pretty good about this recipe. We're going to have fluids, but we're going to call on that and see kind of what we're going to add to this specific recipe.
Starting to look delicious, audience, don't you
Yes,
think?
that's great. So we're going to move this, if you want to take this off to the
Sure,
side.
yeah, let me help out with something. I know I'm not the chef.
We're going to get into our
Stick it in the
chronic
oven.
recipe here. And so, we're expecting this one to be a little more stable, not so crazy. First things first, we want to prevent seizures. We don't know what's
Sure.
happening in the brain with the, after a traumatic brain injury when they're a little more stable. We have our Keppra and our Dilantin, some of the, more common anti-seizure medications. They
Okay.
both have levels, so you can use them both together in your recipe. You want to make sure that you're drawing your therapeutic levels. Dilantin's 10 to 20, your Kepra's 12 to 46, huge areas. So we're going to throw them both in, and we're just going to think about that later to be careful and make sure that we're not overdoing it or underdoing it.
So what would be the side effects with that Dilantin?
So you want to make sure you're looking for gum hyperplasia. You want to let your dentist know.
It's good to know.
You don't want to get this recipe too inflamed in there, So some other things that we're going to do on the chronic side, we're really looking to make it more comfortable, decrease the pain, decrease, no seizures, spasms. So that's where we have baclofen and Valium. Valium is a little bit stronger.
Right.
You can use them both again, just depending on what you're looking for your recipe.
Right, each recipe is so individual,
Right.
They all like it a little bit different. I know I like really spicy, so I'd probably do them both. But
We're cooking up some spicy stuff here, so we are going to use them both. But again, make sure you know what's going on, make sure you know those side effects of your ingredients, and you know what's happening with your patient.
wonderful.
Tylenol, one of my favorites. Antipyretic, if it's getting too hot, getting too spicy, you can throw it in. Also helps with pain, if it's, gotta love an ingredient that does two things, a 2-for-1.
I know some of you don't like it too hot, so that's for you out there.
And then we have our Norco and our Tramadol, which are also pain relievers. You can expect anyone with a traumatic brain injury to have residual pain for a long period of time, if not the rest of their life.
One of my favorite parts of the recipe.
So we're gonna throw both of these in here too. Again, remembering side effects of your medications. And with a brain injury, you don't know quite what's happening, can increase these pressures in our recipe. So we have some antihypertensives. You want to use these again with caution, depending on your recipe. We're gonna throw some of these in there. Last but not least, we want to make sure we're treating the emotional side of this recipe. If they're depressed, anxious, etc. Prozac. It's a great thing for traumatic brain injuries specifically because the neurotransmitters, their TBIs are known to decrease them. Prozac will increase them.
I know the doctor will be here today talking to us about that as well, too. So.
Absolutely. So we're
Wonderful.
gonna throw that in. We're just cooking away. If you want to take this away.
Sure, and I know for time-saving measurements, we already have one in the oven, so I'm gonna pull this out and hand it to Chef.
So excited for you guys to see this. It's gonna be awesome. You can try this at
Here
home.
you are, Chef.
Oh my gosh, look at this. And after all of that,
Beautiful.
this is what we want. We want a perfect,
Look at
well-balanced
that, audience.
brain.
Look at that. Can we give Chef a hand?
So just take a look at that.
I can't wait to try that today, right, audience? Sorry at home that you won't be able to taste it.
Don't forget to watch Chef Girl RN at 5 o'clock tonight, and I hope to see you guys tuning in.
All right, we're Coffee with CMC, and we'll be back.
So I'm Wendy Storm, and I'm here with today's local weather report. So today we are seeing extreme signs of moderate to severe TBI. We want to be able to focus on the northern areas right up here where we're expecting high chances of electrical storms. We want to be prepared for these electrical storms by providing and implementing seizure precautions such as padding the bed rails and having the bed in the lowest possible position. We are also going to be expecting extreme cases of edema, which is going to increase the pressures up here in the northern areas as well. So we want to be able to be prepared for that. The goal for these increased pressures is to decrease them. And like Lisa mentioned earlier in her cooking segment, we are going to be giving a few medications such as Lasix and mannitol to decrease these pressures. However, we do need to be careful and be prepared for heavy fluid and water shifts that are going to be occurring. We want to monitor your ionos strictly for any high chances of water here in the southern areas here. We also want to monitor any fluid and electrolyte imbalances, so make sure to be looking at all your lab work, like your CBCs and chem panels. Now, some of the other stuff that you want to be looking at and be prepared for are airway maintenance. Most likely, you are going to need your patient to be intubated and have mechanical ventilation, so you want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on your ABG results. You also want to be able to maintain the head of the bed elevated between 30 to 40 degrees if possible with your patient to be able to promote ventilation and increase that airflow. You also want to be keeping your patient NPO because your patient is most likely going to be intubated, and to prevent any aspiration going into the lungs. So you want to be able to be prepared for a possible NG and a possible OG tube to be inserted to promote feedings. Of course, you are going to need to hydrate your patient because there is going to be some fluid shifts going out of the body. So you want to prevent any dehydration, and you will have at least 2 border large IVs in your patient for fluid and medication. Neuro assessments are important during this forecast because you want to be able to assess for any worsening conditions. You want to be able to use the Glasgow Coma Scale, which is going to assess the level of consciousness of your patient. You're going to be looking at pupillary reactions and any gag reflexes. And you have to remember that a GCS of 8 or less is considered a severe TBI. Finally, some things that you will need to prepare for in the future is that you might be looking and preparing for a craniotomy, which will be needed to evacuate any hematomas or any fluid contents to be able to give room for that swelling brain. A ventriculostomy might also occur to drain any ventricles if needed from the CSF. A ventriculostomy will also be able to maintain and monitor CSF levels. So this is today's forecast. I'm Wendy Storm, and here you go.
All right, good morning you guys, and welcome back to Coffee with Copper Mountain. We're here today with our expert in-house psychiatrist, Dr. Ida Looney. Welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today to discuss.
Well, good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So today, our topic has been all about traumatic brain injuries and everything that has to do with that. So we wanted to talk to you more on a psychosocial level, and what types of things do you see in your patients and in your experience? What do you notice with your patients?
Well, the psychosocial aspect is actually really difficult because when you're in the hospital, you're treating more of the medical side. You tend to forget a lot of the psychosocial and the emotional effects that it has on not only the patients but the family as well for many, many years to come if this is a severe traumatic brain injury.
Absolutely. So would you say that you see a lot of, depression or anger, or do you see a lot of people come back and come out of this? I mean, what?
Well, it definitely depends on the type of injury that they have. Your more severe to moderate injuries, yeah, there's a lot of depression involved, not only on the patient's side, but also as a family. The family starts to feel a little regret, a little anger towards the patient because, now you have to think their life is completely turned upside down.
Right.
What used to be a normal life is now no longer. You're having to care for this patient 24/7. So yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of depression that needs to be dealt with.
Would you say it's unpredictable? I mean, you never know what you're going to get with this, right? I mean, from what I've read behind the scenes and...
It definitely is unpredictable. Like I said, just as traumatic as your brain injury is going to tell how long it either clears up or it's a permanent.
That's amazing. And actually, we have one of our newscasters newscasters out in the field to give an interview kind of about the same thing. So let's cut out to Erin. Do you want to?
Okay, so my name is Erin. I'm here with Jane and Trey O'Connor. Trey experienced a traumatic brain injury over this last year, and so we're just here to talk with them about their experience at the hospital and over the time of his recovery. So I'm going to start with you, Jane. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience at the hospital and with the nursing staff and what that was like and what maybe some things that they did to help you get through your experience?
Yes, the nursing staff was amazing, first of all. I mean, they did 99.9% of the work. They always explained to us what they were doing, what the medications were for, how often they changed them, if we were comfortable. We started staying all night. And they always, you know, we had blankets, we had social workers come and talk to us. The chaplain came quite often. They have such a huge responsibility, and not only to the patient, but to the families that are there. I think they were very, very flexible with us.
Were they able to include you a lot in the care for Trey?
They did. They down in ICU, they didn't have access to a sitter. So when it got to the point where he was waking up, they then asked us if we would be willing to stay in the room. So we did shifts so that it was either my husband or I. He was in restraints, but he was starting to move around a lot, not knowing what was going on, and we didn't know what was going on with him as well. Yes.
Now, Trey, can you tell us a little bit about what you've done since you left the hospital that, you know, to help you with your recovery?
Okay, when I first got out of the hospital, I was given a speech therapist. Her name is Sherry. She's in Eisenhower. So I was given that for about, I would say 2 or 3 months. Then I passed everything. She said that it will just be time to get your speech back to normal. Because when I first got out of the hospital, or when I first woke up, I couldn't talk at all. So I had to fully recover from the talking.
Was that a big challenge for you?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely a challenge.
What were some of your feelings? Did you feel frustrated about that?
A little bit, but I mean, I have to stay positive every day, every time. So I'm always positive. And right now I'm taking a personal fitness class at COD. And then I also have a personal trainer. It's at a World Gym at the mall.
Eddie?
His name is Eddie, and I work out with him. I work out with him 3 times a week. And other than that, I mean, I'm no medication, nothing. So I'm just
that's
focusing
wonderful.
on. Yeah, it's a miracle.
Yes,
he
absolutely.
didn't have any seizures,
Nothing.
which was a big concern.
Right.
After the accident. But he also, when he left Desert Regional and went to UCLA, he had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy, and neuropsychology. And that's something you kept doing here with Dr. Deborah.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, the
you are right.
neuropsychology, which, you know, to help him through issues that he may have. Once you kind of are done with all your therapies, it's kind of like, okay, bye, see ya.
Right.
And you're in this transitional phase where you're kind of on your own,
right?
You know, and so that's a little bit difficult.
Some things that you want to remember when you're sending your patient home is definitely to provide some patient teaching, teaching the families how to do neurochecks, teaching them to observe for things that they might need to go back to the hospital for, things such as problems with their vision, any type of drainage that they may notice from their ears or nose, third speech. These are things that we want to be educating our patients before they leave so that they don't have to experience, you know, break in their care. So back to you in the newsroom.
Okay, so Dr. Adaluni, for our viewers out there that, you know, may be suffering from this or have family members that are suffering from this, is there anywhere that we can refer them locally that can really help them, not only individually but as a family? Is there anything?
Great question. You know what, there actually is. We like to refer our families to community support groups, just so our families know, you know, they're not alone. This is a group, a family injury. we refer to the Brain Association of America and the National Brain Injury Foundation. You know, we want to refer our family to respite care, where somebody will come in and take care of our patient for a half hour, a couple hours, so the family can get out and get some alone time, some time to recoup. So the psychosocial aspect of this traumatic brain injury can be devastating to both the family and the patient and everybody that's involved. All right, well, thank you for your time, and you have a great afternoon.